I never expected a single mom's heartwarming act would change my perspective on wealth forever. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It hit me like a freight train. One moment, life was predictable. The next, chaos. The world I knew shattered, splintering my hopes and dreams into a million jagged pieces. There I was, standing in the middle of the kitchen, dishes piling up like my regrets. My heart raced. My hands trembled. It seemed like the walls were closing in, suffocating me. My head buzzed with despair. I could hear my kids, giggling in the other room. Sweet, innocent laughter that felt worlds away from me. They had no idea about the storm raging inside me. My name is Sarah, and I felt trapped in a life I didn't want. I had once been a caregiver, a beloved daughter, but now I was just a shadow of my former self. I was alone in this fight. My father had passed the year before, leaving behind memories that haunted me like ghosts. My mother hardly spoke, lost in her grief. My friends had faded, slipping away one by one as my grief consumed me. I remember sitting at the table when Jenna, my neighbor, appeared at the door. A single mom herself, she had been fighting her own battles. Her son, Oliver, was always full of energy, bringing joy that was contagious. Jenna didn't wait for an invitation. She swept in, a whirlwind of determination draped in mismatched clothes, her hair a chaotic nest. "Let us do this together," she said with an intensity that startled me. She had this way of making me feel like we could tackle anything. Yet underneath that fierce exterior, I sensed an underlying vulnerability. Her eyes held stories that mirrored my own. There was something mysterious about her, something magnetic. She would show up with homemade dinners, hugs that felt like an anchor. Every act was a reminder that wealth didn't mean money. It meant love, community, connection. But could I really trust it? My heart ached with trepidation. I craved stability, yet the thought of opening up felt insurmountable. Jenna taught me about resilience. She was battling her own storms: job insecurity, balancing her dreams while caring for Oliver, yet she never wavered. I was drawn to her bravery. On the surface, she had little, but she radiated strength. People always seemed attracted to her. I watched as others gravitated towards her, sharing smiles, laughter, and dreams. Then one evening, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and purple, everything changed. Jenna handed me an envelope, her hands slightly shaking. "Read it," she whispered, her voice cracking. I opened it slowly. Confusion swirled inside me as I read her words that illuminated truths I had long buried deep within my heart. The mystery hovered in the air, thick and heavy. What if this was the key to everything I had been longing for? Could I embrace the wealth of connection she was offering? I quickly glanced up, finding Jenna's eyes filled with expectation. But then, behind her, I caught a glimpse of Oliver, his face pale and worried. The laughter was gone, replaced by a silence that screamed. Just as I was ready to reach out for hope, darkness crept in. What lay ahead felt too immense to confront. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days that followed Jenna's revelation were laden with uncertainty. The warmth she had brought into my life felt fragile, as if it could shatter with the slightest breeze. I found myself replaying that moment over and over, the envelope lying heavy in my mind. It didn't matter what was written. At that moment, I felt a hollowness settle in my chest. Oliver's worried gaze haunted me. What had stumbled into our lives, carried on the upward surge of hope, now felt like an impending storm. I watched as Jenna expertly juggled her responsibilities, whipping together meals for her son, attending to her job, all while being a beacon for me in my tumult. But amidst her resilience, shadows danced in her eyes, shadows I recognized all too well. One afternoon, as I stood at my kitchen sink scrubbing at the remnants of something I could no longer quite identify, a soft knock at the door drew me away from my thoughts. I opened it and found Jenna awkwardly balancing a huge bouquet of wildflowers, the kind that spilled vibrant colors against the fading backdrop of the long summer day. "I thought you could use a pick-me-up," she said, her smile brave yet tinged with worry. As I took the flowers, our fingers brushed lightly. A pulse of warmth zipped through me, dispelling some of the cold that had enveloped me since her confession. "Thank you," I managed to say, my voice barely a whisper. There was kindness, unmeasured and untethered, in this exchange. I yearned for it like a flower craved sunshine. "Would you like to join us for a picnic at the park?" Jenna asked, her eyes sparkling with an enthusiasm that made my heart ache. The thought of venturing outside, into a world beyond my murky kitchen, filled me with trepidation. What if I couldn't put on a brave face? I started but paused, the weight of my own fears nearly suffocating me. "I don't know if I'm ready yet." She offered her hand, a simple gesture full of promise. "Let us just sit together. You don't have to be ready. Let us just be." Her words crashed through the walls I had erected, and I found myself nodding, swept along by her quiet confidence. As we strolled through the park, with children laughing and the sun dancing around us, small pieces of my heart began to mend. The laughter of Oliver playing nearby filled the air, infectious and pure, pulling me back to a time when joy didn't feel so far away. Jenna shared stories of her own childhood, filled with simplicity and dreams that stretched beyond her reach. As I listened, I felt the burden I carried begin to lighten ever so slightly. A small joy came from knowing that I wasn't alone in navigating these turbulent waters. While she had hard stories, they didn't weigh her down. Instead, they served as badges of honor she wore proudly. But as the afternoon light began to fade, a sudden chill swallowed the warmth. I spotted Oliver playing with a group of kids, but just as quickly he retreated, clutching his left arm tightly to his side. Anxiety rippled through me, and before I could think twice, I rushed to his side. "Oliver?" I asked, moving closer. "What happened?" He winced, biting his lip. In this vulnerable moment, I saw Jenna approach, her confident composure fracturing for the first time as she kneeled beside her son. "Bud, can you tell me what's wrong?" Her voice was gentle, but it was laced with something darker fear. "I fell, Mom." "It hurts," he murmured, tears shimmering in his wide, innocent eyes. With a shaky arm, Jenna wrapped him up, whispering soothing words, but I could see the worry threaded into her brows. My heart ached for both of them, and despite the gravity of the moment, I felt a surge of determination wash over me. Maybe I couldn't solve their problems, but in that moment, I could offer my support. A motherly instinct ignited within me. "I'll take him to the doctor," I found myself saying before I even processed my words. Jenna looked up at me, surprise etched into her features. "Are you sure?" Her eyes searched mine, seeking reassurance. "Yeah," I replied, a new sense of purpose flickering to life as I spoke. "We can't let him suffer. Let us get him checked out." The concept of partnering together, of leaning into this vulnerability and fear, sparked something beyond mere hope. It ignited the possibility of companionship and trust. But as I ushered Oliver towards the car, I felt the tension mount. Jenna hesitated, leaning back. "This could easily be something small," I reminded her, though my heart raced as my own fears took root. "We don't have to create stories from what we can't see." Yet as I reached for the car handle, Jenna's next words sent another tremor coursing through me. "Sarah, there's something I haven't told you," she began, her voice shaking. The words hung in the air, weighted with unspoken burdens, sweeping the optimism away like leaves in an autumn wind. My heart raced, the acknowledgement of the storm that brewed between us simmering just below the surface, and I clutched the flowers tightly, unwilling to let go of even the smallest flicker of beauty amid the chaos. The drive to the clinic felt like a rapid descent into unknown depths, the rhythmic thumping of my heart all but drowning out Oliver's quiet sniffles from the back seat. I stole glances in the rearview mirror, needing to reassure myself that he was all right, his brave little face caught between discomfort and concern. Jenna had fallen silent beside me, her gaze fixed on the passing trees, an air of intensity surrounding her. The unsaid was building between us, a palpable tension I could almost touch. "Jenna, whatever it is, maybe it's better to," I started, but the words halted in my throat as she turned to me, a flicker of fear churning in her eyes. "I don't want to burden you with my worries right now," she whispered, her voice trembling like dried leaves caught in an autumn breeze. "What you're doing for Oliver, it means the world. But then don't keep it to yourself," I urged gently, longing to break down the barriers that separated us, yet steadying for the weight of the truth that could potentially shatter everything. "You deserve to share, to lean on someone. You're not alone." Jenna's lips curved into a faint, almost wistful smile, and her nod appeared hesitant, as if she were weighing the cost of vulnerability. "Oliver's father, he left when I was pregnant. He's never been part of our lives. It's just been us. I've been trying to be everything for him," and now her voice faltered, falling into the depths of unformed thoughts. "Now?" I pressed, feeling the undeniable connection deepen through our shared fears. "Now I'm scared I can't keep it up," she admitted, tears brimming in her eyes. "What if something's wrong with Oliver? What if I can't? What if I lose him like I lost everything else?" Her confession shattered the fragile optimism we had built in the park, a coldness creeping back. But I reached for her hand, intertwining our fingers, creating warmth against the chill of uncertainty. "You won't lose him. You're doing everything right, and he knows how much you love him. You're not alone in this." As the clinic loomed ahead, Jenna took a deep breath, her resolve returning in slight, determined waves. Yet beneath it all lurked her vulnerabilities, ones that perfectly mirrored my own. I was gripped by the idea that I had been hiding, too, behind walls constructed of fear and worry. Inside the waiting room, the fluorescent light seemed harsh and unforgiving, contrasting the flutter of butterflies in my stomach that whispered of something much darker. I watched as Oliver perched himself on the examination table, his small frame looking so fragile among the stark white sheets. Jenna was at his side, but I could feel the divide. The shadows of uncertainty loomed again, and I could sense her slipping deeper into herself as she fought the rising tide of emotions. The minutes dragged, becoming an abyss of anxiety where questions flooded my mind. Would something be wrong? What would Jenna do? What would I do? The cycle of uncertainty threatened to consume me as I stole glances at Oliver, still and quiet, each moment amplifying the fear that clawed at my insides. After what felt like a lifetime, the doctor finally entered, his warm demeanor cutting through the tension like sunlight through clouds. He examined Oliver with a gentle touch, conversing in a soothing tone that seemed to ease some of Jenna's anxiety. Yet as he began speaking, my heart sank when I saw Jenna's fingers tighten around the edge of the examination table, her knuckles blanching. "Everything appears to be normal, but we'll need to run some tests to be sure," the doctor informed us, his voice steady but laced with caution. The words settled around us like thick fog, obscuring any promise of reassurance that might have threaded through the air. I glanced at Jenna, who had turned pale. For every ounce of relief I felt at the doctor's initial assessment, I could see the storm brewing in her eyes. "Run tests for what?" she managed, her voice shaking. "What could be wrong with him?" "Let us not panic just yet," the doctor said, offering a small smile, yet it felt fleeting, as if he, too, was measuring the distance of the emotional baggage in the room, unsure how to bridge the gap. But it was Jenna's sudden intake of breath that pierced through my heart, a haunting echo of dread. "It's always something. He just got his cast off from the last fall, and I can't," but somewhere buried beneath her anxieties was something else, an unregrettable instinct to forge ahead, to protect her son at all costs. I turned to Oliver, who looked up at his mother with adoration and trust, and my heart ached for both of them. In the stillness that followed the doctor's words, an unexpected voice broke in from across the waiting room, a boy laughing with the same bright tones Oliver carried. The joy was infectious, a spark that leaped into the stillness and brought to life the quiet tension in the air. Little did I know how this laughter would intertwine our fates. As Jenna took in the sound, her expression flickered, a moment of clarity cutting through the fog of her worries. But just as quickly as it emerged, despair wrapped around her again, a heavy cloak. "What if it is something more?" she whispered, her voice thick with fear as she turned back to me. What if I fail him? I felt the walls of my own heart tremble as the emotional avalanche threatened to surge through me. Just when I thought I might speak, the doctor received a call that drew his attention away. In that brief moment of distraction, Jenna twisted her fingers and said, "Sarah, I have to tell you," but before she could finish, a nurse approached with an all-important file in hand, a determined look painted across her features. With unyielding resolve, she turned to the doctor, who was barely catching up with events, and I felt as if all more shadows lurked. The room seemed to spin and time seemed to freeze. Something monumental, heavy, and possibly devastating was about to be revealed, and as I met Jenna's wide eyes, the air thickening around us, my chest tightened with impending dread. I could only hold her hand tighter, bracing for what would come next, a storm I wasn't sure we were prepared to weather. The doctor glanced at the file in the nurse's hand, his expression growing serious. The atmosphere in the room shifted, heavy with a sense of impending gravity. I could sense Jenna's grip tightening on mine, her anxiety palpable as she braced for whatever news was about to come. "Let us step into the consultation room," the doctor said, his tone shifting to a gentle urgency, imparting the gravity that each of us could feel. As we followed, Oliver hopped off the examination table, oblivious to the tension, and to my heartache as he chased after a stray butterfly flitting around the corner. Jenna remained rooted in place for a heartbeat longer, her eyes fixed on Oliver's innocent exuberance. What if he? Her breath caught, and she swallowed hard, the words stuck behind a barricade of fear. "Jenna," I said softly, turning her gaze back to me, "no matter what, you've already done more for him than many could. You're a wonderful mother." My voice trembled with urgency, hoping to inject some calm into her spiraling worry. Yet, beneath my reassurance lay seeds of doubt. What if she was right? What if something was wrong? We walked into the consultation room, a space filled with framed posters of healthy children, smiling faces that were designed to soothe anxious souls. The doctor settled across from us, his expression reflecting a mix of empathy and professional detachment, yet something darker lurked behind those eyes. Oliver's symptoms might point to conditions that, while manageable, could require ongoing attention, he began, and every word felt like a hammer driving stakes into my heart. I turned to Jenna, whose face was a mask of shock and uncertainty. "What kind of conditions?" she whispered, her voice cracking. "Well, we need to conduct a series of tests for potential developmental issues. I don't want to jump to conclusions, and it's essential to approach this with clarity." The room grew silent, the weight of his words settling upon us like a lead blanket. Jenna's eyes filled with unshed tears, and I could see the anguish etching deeper lines on her face. Each moment stretched painfully thin, as I tried to navigate my own whirlpool of emotions while also being her anchor. "What developmental issues?" she pressed, desperation threading through her voice. He seems fine. "Sometimes, issues aren't visible on the surface, Jenna," the doctor continued gently. "Testing will give us insight, and depending on the outcome, we can explore ways to support him. I can't lose him, I can't." She burst out, her voice rising in pitch, and in that moment, I saw the cracks in her carefully constructed facade that I reached across the table, placing my hand over hers. "You won T. We'll figure this out together, no matter what it is," I promised, my heart swelling with fierce determination. I hoped it showed. I needed her to know that she wasn't alone. As the discussion faded into technicalities about assessments and potential specialists, I felt a new dread settle in my stomach, a fear of the unknown, and how it could unravel the fragile bond we had been forging against a backdrop of turmoil. After what felt like an eternity, we left the consultation room, walking slowly down the sterile hallway. Oliver was spinning in circles, giggling at the sheer thrill of making himself dizzy. I couldn't help but smile at his innocence while the weight of our emotional turmoil clung to my shoulders, but just as we made our way back to the waiting area, a commotion caught my attention. Laughter erupted again, bright and cheerful, but this time it was accompanied by something darker, a shout of distress from the other side of the room. A woman was on the floor, her face pale as she battled to catch her breath, a young girl at her side, her eyes wide with panic. In an instant, I was propelled forward, and I found myself at the edge of the crowd gathering around the scene. "Someone call 911. A voice rang out amidst the chaos, and instinctively, my heart thudded in my chest. "Jenna, stay with Oliver," I urged, knowing we didn't need any more crises, not today. But as I stepped closer, I turned back to see Jenna transfixed, her eyes glazed with a haunting fear. I focused on the woman, doing my best to reassure the young girl, who looked as though she might crumble right beside her mother. In that moment, I felt a deep, visceral connection to the mother, the pulse of vulnerability that coursed through both of us, treacherous and raw. Just as the paramedics arrived, I heard Jenna's voice breaking through the noise. "Sarah, come back," she called, the panic flooding back, and I turned to see her unintended reflection of my fight for connection, my desire to shield her from heartbreak as much as I wanted to protect myself. But as I rushed back, catching Jenna's gaze, an unexpected realization surfaced. A small ember of hope nestled amidst the dread. The connections we forged amidst chaos, the moments of kindness amidst despair, could lead us through the darkness, could bind our spirits in ways unforeseen. Yet, as I reached her side, the paramedics removed the woman from view, and with each passing second, I could see the flicker of uncertainty in Jenna's heart grow as deeply rooted as the fracture of her soul. "Please don't let there be something," she murmured. "Please don't let failure be our path." Her voice mingled with the sirens outside, a haunting melody of fear and longing. As I squeezed her hand tighter, I couldn't help but wonder if we were teetering on the edge of a chasm too vast to cross, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last. And at that moment, nestled within the chaos, I caught a glimpse of Oliver's glee, a reminder that no matter the stones strewn throughout our journey, the fire of hope flickered, even in the darkest depths of despair. But what lay beyond the curtain of uncertainty remained unseen, a revelation waiting to unfold that just might tether us to fate in ways we could not yet begin to fathom. As we exited the chaos of the waiting area, I could still feel the residue of anxiety clinging to my skin. The emotional upheaval surrounding us hadn't just come from our own fears but had splintered out into the collective pulse of the hospital, an energy that thrummed beneath the mundane sounds of beeping machines and whispered conversations. Jenna walked beside me, her grip on Oliver a little firmer now, as though holding him tightly could stave off the shadows looming over us. Each step felt heavy, an amalgamation of dread and hope. I cursed myself silently for the weight growing in my chest. I needed to be strong for her and for Oliver. "Let us get some fresh air," I suggested, trying to lighten the atmosphere just a bit. Jenna nodded faintly, her gaze distant. I knew she was fighting her own demons, and I wanted to reinstate the sliver of hope we had glimpsed, a reminder of joy amidst the somber turn of events. That we approached the entrance of the hospital, where the sunlight streamed through the glass doors, illuminating the world outside like a beacon of possibility. Oliver darted outside first, squealing with delight as he seemed to emerge unscathed from the chaos behind us. Watching him frolic amidst the flowers swaying in the gentle breeze tugged at my heart, grounding me amidst the turmoil. "Jenna, look at him," I said, my voice catching as I looked at the unfolding innocence. "He's still here with us, laughing, living." Yet, Jenna's expression was clouded as she stepped out to join Oliver, burdened by a weight that was evident only in the way she forced a smile. "I just want him to have the best life," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can't bear to think something might keep him from it." A moment of clarity washed over me as I considered how she viewed motherhood as both a blessing and a responsibility that carried the weight of the world. All the hope she held was now intricately interwoven with anxiety, as if they were two sides of the same coin. As Oliver bounded towards the flowerbeds, I shared a look with Jenna, a series of unvoiced words exchanged in a heartbeat. "You are that hope, you know," I ventured, finding solace in my determination to empower her spirit. "What he needs is you, just as you are. You fought for him more fiercely than anyone could dream." Tears brimmed in Jenna's eyes, but she blinked them away, forcing a smile that fractured the facade she had built. "Sometimes I feel like I'm the one who is falling apart," she admitted. Her vulnerability pierced the air, an unintentional confession of the chaos swirling inside her, and it made me ache for her. "Then let me help you," I offered, stepping closer. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together." But before Jenna could respond, a flicker of movement caught my eye, a woman approaching us, her eyes warm and inviting amidst the uncertainty of the situation. She wore scrubs, her face soft yet determined, and she gave a small wave as she drew near, stopping to catch her breath. "I saw you all inside," she said gently, her voice soothing like a balm amidst our turmoil. "I know that waiting for answers can feel overwhelming. I'm here to help if you need someone to talk to." Jenna blinked, surprise evident on her face. You work here?" The woman nodded, her smile unwavering. "I'm a social worker at the hospital. I connect families with resources, emotional support, whatever you need." Her gaze turned to Oliver, who was now sidetracked, crouched beside a vibrant flower. "Children have a way of reminding us of what matters most, don't they?" Jenna let out a breath she seemed to have been holding for what felt like eternity. "I didn't even know we could talk to someone. It feels so heavy sometimes. Every journey has its weight. It's human to feel lost. But together, we can lighten that burden," the woman replied, her energy radiating comfort that I felt my heart lift slightly as the warmth of kindness began to thaw the frozen fear within Jenna. This chance encounter, stemming from our moment of vulnerability, held the potential to pivot our entire emotional landscape. But just as hope began to swirl around us like the petals in the wind, Oliver interrupted, his tiny hand clutching a flower. "Mom. Look. Can we take it home?" His innocent joy sliced through the heaviness, and in that moment, I believed hope could flourish in the darkest corners. Jenna hesitated, the shadows dancing across her face once more as her nurturing nature wrestled between caution and love. "But baby, we don't want to pick flowers from where they grow, do we?" "I want to." Oliver whined, his face pinching with determination. "Please." Before Jenna could answer, the woman leaned close to Oliver, her voice low and conspiratorial. "How about we take a picture with the flowers instead?" Oliver's face lit up at the suggestion. "Yeah. Let us do it." The weight of his spirited energy brought a smile back to Jenna's lips, if only for a fleeting moment. As they posed, with Oliver holding his flower like a coveted trophy beside Jenna's proud, albeit momentarily carefree, smile, I couldn't shake the sense of impending tension lingering in the air. What awaited us on this journey was still a wilderness of uncertainties. Each blossom of hope we encountered felt like a reminder of what was at stake. Just as they finished snapping the photo, the woman turned back to us, her expression shifting as she pressed a hand on my shoulder, her voice turning serious. "If you ever need further help, connections, or anything at all, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll be here." Jenna's eyes sparkled with gratitude as she nodded. "Thank you, that means a lot." And as I watched this small act of kindness ripple through Jenna's heart, the winds shifted with a sense of impending storm, one I could feel weighing heavily in the space between us. Perhaps this new source of strength could illuminate our journey, but I feared for the darkness still lying in wait just beyond the horizon. "Mom. Can we get ice cream?" Oliver tugged at Jenna's hand, his joy unfading. As they walked toward the cafe, I followed close behind, torn between the growing light of community and the looming shadows of uncertainty that stalked our every move, knowing full well that the answers we sought were still hanging just out of reach like the petals of the flower that might soon drift away with the wind. The sun hung low in the sky as we made our way to the cafe, its warm glow softening the edges of our worries, if only momentarily. Each step felt like a fragile balancing act teetering between despair and fleeting joy. Oliver's laughter echoed in the cool air, and for a heartbeat, the world outside those hospital walls enveloped us in a blanket of warmth. Yet, as the ice cream cones began to melt away in our hands, I couldn't quite shake the heavy sensation in my gut. Jenna poured her energy into Oliver, her smile reassembled like shattered glass, fragmented but somehow beautiful in its reconstruction. Watching her with him ignited a familiar spark of admiration in my chest, the way she nestled into their bond, her eyes sparkling with unshed tears yet infused with determination. I wanted desperately to keep her afloat, to preserve this moment of levity, but I was acutely aware of the weight still pressing down on us like a storm gathering at the edge of the horizon, dark and unrelenting. "Look at these!" Oliver exclaimed, his little hands clutching a rainbow of sticky sweet colors. "Best ice cream ever." I swallowed hard, forcing a smile at his enthusiasm as Jenna chuckled, her laughter sparking a brief moment of brightness. "Do you remember when you first tasted ice cream?" she asked him, eyes dancing with reminiscence. "You were so little, you almost pushed it off the table." His giggles filled the air, creating an eruption of noise that washed over me, momentarily drowning out my swirling thoughts. But as Jenna spoke, I saw a fleeting flicker of anxiety shrouded in the corners of her smile, one she masked like sunlight peeking through dark clouds. As we finished our ice cream, the light began to wane, the shadows creeping back in, sneaking into the crevices of our hearts. Jenna glanced at her phone, the glow illuminating her face for just a moment before her expression hardened. "I need to check in with the doctor," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, the lightness of the day evaporating as quickly as it had come. "Can I come with you?" I asked, my pulse quickening at the thought of whether she could handle the weight of the conversation that lay ahead. I wanted to be a steady rock in her tumultuous sea, but I worried there were limits to my strength. "No," she replied, her tone resolute but her gaze slid away, as if the truth hid somewhere behind her hazel eyes. "I need a moment. It's part of this path." Jenna nodded, swallowing hard, and I could see the struggle etched in her expression. "I'll be okay," she added, though the conviction felt like a fragile promise floating in the air. The tension between us tightened, the air thickening with unspoken fears. As Jenna turned to leave, I reached out to clasp her hand more tightly than I intended. "You're not alone in this, Jenna. Just remember that, no matter what," I urged, the words spilling out with a fervor stemming from a place deep within that I watched as she fought against the tide of doubt welling in her chest before she forced a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I know. Thank you." My heart clenched as she walked away, leaving me standing with Oliver, uncertain of what the next moments or hours might bring, the ache of possibility mirroring the gnawing fear coiling in my stomach. "Can we go watch ducks?" Oliver asked, his little voice cutting through my thoughts, innocent and bright. I nodded, trying to slip back into his world of swimmy dreams where children still ruled by whimsy. As we wandered toward the small pond across the street, the soft quacking filled the air, while ripples danced on the water's surface, beautiful yet fragile, much like life itself. "They're funny," he giggled, pointing at a pair of ducks lazily paddling along, undeterred by the burdens that weighed on our hearts. "Yeah, they are," I replied, our moment of respite soothing the edges of my anxiety. But just as I began to lose myself in the joy of his laughter, my phone buzzed mercilessly in my pocket. I pulled it out to find a message from Jenna. "They've found something. I don't know what it means yet. Can you meet me?" A cold rush swept through me, the warmth of the dying sun replaced by an icy grip of dread. I knelt beside Oliver, who was captivated by the ducks, and took a moment to draw a steady breath. "Buddy, let us go find your mom," I said, the words tasting bitter as they left my lips. He nodded enthusiastically, oblivious to the gravity of my emotions. As we hurried back toward the hospital, I felt the walls closing in around me, the weight of uncertainty pressing down with every passing second. When we reached the entrance, I found Jenna standing outside, her shoulders hunched, facing the ground as if gathering the strength to lift her gaze. I approached her cautiously, holding onto Oliver's hand tightly, trying to be a pillar of support when all I felt was uprooted. "Hey, they have news?" "Yes," she breathed, her voice tremulous. Peeling her eyes from the ground, they glimmered with a mix of pain and vulnerability, a concoction of emotion that pulled at the edges of my heart. A moment of silence passed, and I could feel the world slowing down around us as the toll of impending news loomed overhead. "What did they say?" I dared to ask, my breath catching as I braced for the reality swirling in her eyes, the storm shifting violently just above us. But before Jenna could answer, a familiar nurse approached, her expression somber. "Jenna? Could we talk in private?" Panic rose within me, gnawing at my insides, but I did my best to keep my expression neutral for Oliver's sake. The innocence of his world had to remain protected, at least for a little longer. "Wait," Jenna murmured, catching the nurse's attention. I need." Her voice trailed off, and I could see the battle within her, like a ship tossed upon tumultuous seas. "I want him here," she finished, her eyes pleading. The nurse exchanged a glance with me, and I stepped closer to Jenna, giving her the reassurance I felt she desperately needed. "I'll be right here," I promised, my voice strong against the chaotic backdrop of her racing thoughts. With a nod, Jenna stepped forward, her expression crumpling as she turned her back on us for just a moment, stepping into the unknown of her own future and leaving Oliver and me standing at the precipice of a storm, one that promised chaos and turbulence yet again. I crouched beside Oliver, whose small hand was warm in mine. "You want to watch the ducks again?" I asked, forcing a smile as dread coiled tighter in my chest. "Yeah. Mommy will come back soon, right? He beamed, and a soft ache twinged in my heart. This beautiful boy, unaware of the gravity shaking the world around him. Absolutely, I replied, though not entirely convinced. As we turned away from the door Jenna had just slipped through, I felt the cracking foundation of hope shift underneath us, as if even the smallest tremor could unearth the truth lurking beneath the surface. I wanted to shield him from the storm, but I couldn't help wondering if we had already begun to lose our way, the shadows beginning their encroachment once more, ready to swallow us whole before we even had a chance to fight back. As we lingered near the pond, Oliver's laughter echoed against the backdrop of my swirling apprehension, but the cheerful notes felt distant, almost muffled like a song played underwater. It was a melody I desperately wanted to embrace, yet the uncertainty gnawed at the fringes of my mind, filling the space around us with an unmistakable tension. "Look!" Oliver shouted, pointing animatedly at a group of baby ducks that waddled unsteadily behind their mother. "They're so cute." His joy reverberated through the air like a fragile light flickering in the dark, momentarily pushing back the shadows that loomed large in my heart. That I forced a smile, kneeling beside him, heartsick and powerless. "They are adorable," I agreed, gripping his small hand more tightly as if it could stabilize both of us against the uncertainty that lay ahead. Catching my breath, I absorbed the simplicity of this small moment, the way laughter could still bloom from innocence, even as the world behind us crumbled. Oliver looked up at me, his bright eyes dancing with the reflection of sunlight glinting on the water. "Can we take one home?" He giggled, squinting against the sun as the exuberance around him shielded him from the real storms raging just beyond our laughter. Before I could respond, the doors of the hospital swung open again, the sound cutting through the tranquil ambience like a knife. Jenna emerged, her face pale and drawn, a stark contrast to the vibrant energy of the pond. My chest tightened at the sight of her, the slight hunch of her shoulders revealing a gravity that crushed the air around us. She looked like she had just stepped off the battlefield of her own dread. "Mommy!" Oliver squealed, his excitement erupting into a fabulous surprise that seemed to lift the heaviness momentarily. He broke free from my side and dashed toward her, curiosity trumping any instinct to protect him from the storm breaching the horizon. Jenna knelt, wrapping her arms around him as if he were her lifeline. In that simple embrace, I hoped she found a moment of sanctuary amid the turmoil. I stood a few paces back, hesitant and outsider as they shared a precious moment filled with love, but also uncertainty. "Did they tell you what it was?" I dared to ask as they broke apart. Oliver nestled against her side. Jenna's expression was complex, sadness mingled with forced strength, and my heart ached at the sight. "They found something in the scans, but they don't know yet if it's not necessarily good or bad," she stammered, her lips quivering as she spoke, the words tumbling over each other in a cascade of fear. "I have to wait for more tests." The echo of her sentence seemed to drown all the warmth left in the air, and in that moment, the sun dipped behind a cloud, leaving a chill in its wake. "But that means there's a chance?" I pressed, a flicker of hope igniting against the weight of the truth. My voice trembled, each word trembling as though daring to cross the fragile boundary that enveloped us. "Yes," she replied, but the word felt caught in her throat, as if she were wading through a stream of conflicting emotions. "But it's not just this. They said they need more tests." I finished for her, the inevitability of that statement hanging like a pendulum swinging overhead, taunting us with the uncertainty ahead. Jenna nodded slowly, more tears pooling in her eyes, reflecting a maze of fear and hope, an intricate dance of emotions on her delicate features. "I can't believe this is happening again," she whispered, her breath hitching with the weight of the moment, as if confessing the fear that clung to her like a heavy shroud. Oliver, impeccably naive, tugged at Jenna's sleeve. "Can we go home now?" His voice was sweet and soft, yearning for normalcy, for the laughter that felt like a past life, before the specter of diagnosis cast a long shadow over our days. "Not yet, sweetheart. We have to wait a little longer." Her voice was gentle, yet firm enough to reflect the urgency of the situation, but I could see her struggle. It was a terrible weight she bore, one she couldn't thrust onto this innocent child who only wanted his mother without fear. "After all this is done, we can have ice cream again, right?" he asked, his face a mixture of childlike hope and yearning. "Of course," Jenna smiled, though it didn't quite reach her eyes, still painted with worry. It was the thin veneer of happiness she'd learned to don, hiding her true emotions beneath layers of forced cheerfulness that I wondered how long this fragile reality could hold against the torrents pounding at its foundation, threatening to sweep everything away. The prospect weighed heavily on us. As Jenna processed the news and Oliver draped himself beneath her arm, there was a chilling moment of clarity that settled over me. Life was shaking the very fabric of our existence, so how could I effectively protect him from the winding uncertainties that still lay ahead? "Can we go sit by the water?" I suggested, desperate to reclaim a moment of solace. "The ducks are waiting." "Yeah. Can I feed them?" Oliver chimed in eagerly, seemingly untouched by the turmoil draped over his mother. Jenna smiled gently as we began to move, a soft murmur of quiet acceptance filling the air around us. "Let us see what we can find," she said softly, a whispering promise of distraction and tentative joy amid the chaos. As we settled down by the water, I reached into my pockets and pulled a few breadcrumbs from the sandwich I had packed earlier, a mismatched offering that felt utterly inadequate compared to the weight of the world we were carrying. The bread hit the water with tiny plops, and the ducks rushed forward, quacking as if they had won a small battle against hunger. "Look!" Oliver exclaimed, his delight uncontainable as the ducks fought over the food. "They're so happy." "We should be happy too," Jenna said quietly, her voice almost lost amidst the quacking cacophony, but the sadness in her eyes betrayed her words. With every passing moment, I felt the fragile balance shift beneath our feet, the playfulness disrupted by the cold touch of reality. But just as I opened my mouth to soothe her fears with quiet words of encouragement, a shadow fell across the water's surface, a single cloud drifting ominously overhead. I felt my heart race once more as I noticed the approaching figure, a tall man in a crisp suit, his demeanor crisp and direct, eyes focused solely on our little family. "Excuse me, are you Jenna?" he called out, with an unfamiliar urgency that sent a chill racing down my spine. Jenna's eyes widened slightly, and I felt her tension radiate through the air, a sudden wave washing away any semblance of peace we had managed to find. "Who are you?" she asked, a frown forming on her brow as the dread pooled inside of me. "I'm here regarding your tests and the implications of the findings," the man replied, casting a look at Oliver before focusing entirely on Jenna. It felt as if he had stepped through time to find us at our most vulnerable, ready to unleash the next wave of tribulation. Every part of me felt electrified as the words hung in the air like an unreleased breath. I could feel the stillness sweep over us, the fragile moments of laughter drifting away, replaced by a chilling foreboding that promised further complications in our unfolding story. As the man approached, the weight of his presence surged through the air, heavy with implications I couldn't quite grasp. I watched Jenna tense, every line on her face drawn taut as if she braced herself for a fierce storm. The embers of joy from earlier began to flicker and die, leaving only the cold ashes of uncertainty in their wake. "Can you give us a moment?" I urged, stepping forward instinctively, every protective instinct flaring within me. The man hesitated, glancing back toward Oliver, who was mesmerized by the ducks, blissfully unaware of the turmoil unfurling at the edge of his innocence. "This is important," he insisted, his voice unwavering. "Then let us move away," I countered, fueled by a wild urge to shield Oliver, to extend this veil of normalcy just a little longer. I could feel Jenna's gaze upon me, a mixture of gratitude and fear twisting within her, and I knew she needed this moment of clarity too. "Fine," she replied tightly, and without waiting for further protest, I led her away from the edge of the pond, just far enough to gather our thoughts without the sounds of quacking chaos surrounding us. "I need you to tell me everything," Jenna urged, her voice a whisper almost lost in the gentle rustling of leaves overhead. As she glanced back toward Oliver, a deeper concern breached the surface of her expression. The man cleared his throat and began speaking, but I could see Jenna's eyes glaze over his words, a defensive wall erected around her heart. With every syllable he uttered, I felt the fissures of hope shatter further. The implication of his presence spiraled around us like a tempest waiting to be unleashed. "Jenna," he said, "the test results indicate significant findings, financial implications that may arise from ongoing treatments." His eyes sparked with an urgency that twisted something deeply within me. He wasn't just here to discuss health, he was here with a mixture of financial arithmetic that weighed heavier than a diagnosis. Costs. Payments. A dreadful seriousness intertwined with medical jargon. "Explain it to me clearly," Jenna commanded, a flicker of fire igniting in her voice even as despair hung around her. I can't do this if you just toss terms at me. What are you saying? Mama! Oliver yelled suddenly, chasing after a particularly bold duck who had ventured too close to him, laughter spilling over his careful worry. His innocent delight grounded us, creating a moment in the eye of the hurricane swirling around us. Oliver, stay close. Jenna called, her eyes never leaving him. Mommy needs to talk. Are you saying that I need to consider care that costs more than I can afford? She pressed, and the way her voice trembled pulled me more firmly into the moment. Caught in the tide of an overwhelming wave, the man hesitated before nodding, though the formality in his posture contradicted the human concern that struggled to surface. With a condition like this, you'll have to explore all your options. The earlier you consider the financial aspects, he glanced toward Oliver, who was chasing the duck with abandon, the better. It's about money? I blurted, more aggressively than intended, feeling anger twist in my gut. You're saying you came out here just to believe me? I didn't want to be the bringer of this news, the man interjected, desperately trying to wield authority over the conversation. But knowing the financial implications is part of the process. It's necessary. I sensed Jenna's heart faltering, the ground beneath her crumbling as she absorbed his words. I can't think about that right now, she admitted, her voice hushed, carrying the weight of resignation. What I need is to be able to breathe without a strangled cry from Oliver cut through the air. In an instant, all eyes turned to him, where he had suddenly halted. The playfulness melted from his gaze as he stood frozen, staring wide-eyed at the bush nearby. Before I could react, I saw what caused his grimace, a small, trembling bird, wedged in the branches and clearly in distress. Mommy, it's stuck. Help it. Oliver's plea rang out, pure and untainted, and I watched as his innocence collided with the reality of struggle. Before I could draw a breath, Jenna dropped to her knees next to him, momentarily diverting the impending storm of adult worries. It'll be okay, sweetheart, she soothed, her hand on Oliver's back as she inspected the frail creature. I'll help. In that moment, her maternal instincts surged forth as she turned her focus away from her own turmoil to save another life that needed care. Just then, a nearby elderly lady approached, having witnessed the ordeal. She bent down, her gentle face lined with compassion. I used to rescue birds in my youth, she said softly, offering her wisdom to the scene. Sometimes, you don't just give help, you become the strength others need. Jenna's gaze flickered to the woman, gratitude spilling silently between them, and I felt the tension in the air dissipate, if only for a moment. The old lady reached into her bag, pulling out a tiny towel, and began to coax the frightened bird gently, calmly whispering words of reassurance. As I stood back, I felt a glimmer of that fragile light re-emerging, the reminder that hope could still hold ground while life seethed around us. But just as I began to breathe again, I noticed something stirring in the distance at the corner of my eye. Behind the old lady, a shadow moved, a figure stepping through the trees, a familiar silhouette that sent a shiver of dread through my heart. I squinted, forcing myself to focus, and froze completely when I recognized the face that had stepped into our vulnerability. It was someone I hoped never to see again, a reminder of past choices, of haunting mistakes that I thought I had buried deep. My pulse quickened as my mind raced, every emotionally charged obstacle now crashing down around me. Somehow, the narrative of our lives felt entwined with my own. I checked the surrounding space, feeling Jenna's anxious presence by my side and Oliver's innocent bliss colliding piteously with the approaching storm. Who Jenna began, and my voice caught in my throat, the bitter taste of impending disaster sweeping in like a tidal wave. Now, not only was survival at risk, but our fragile sense of safety too. As shadows deepened across our once sunny world, I realized that the challenges were only just unfolding, and the unexpected layers of truth pierced the heart of my hopes. As the figure moved closer, anxiety twisted my stomach into knots. Jenna's eyes mined the depths of my expression, searching for answers I wasn't ready to voice. Who is it? She demanded, her voice strained, the atmosphere thick with dread. Oliver loomed in the background, blissfully unaware of the tension brewing behind him that I forced myself to breathe, to steady my racing heart. The familiar face was an almost ghostly presence, invoking memories that threatened to flood my mind with regret. Jack. He was someone from my past that I thought was safely buried beneath the layers of time and distance. A friend turned adversary, the betrayal laced through my history with sharp-edged clarity. Jack, I finally managed, the name escaping my lips like a dropped stone in water, rippling through my consciousness. What are you doing here? He offered a weak smile that never reached his eyes. I heard about Jen. I wanted to check in. A little late for that, don't you think? I snapped, unable to contain the simmering resentment that bubbled beneath the surface. Anger and betrayal hovered thick in the air, tangling with the reality of our situation like a vine steadfastly entwining its prey. Jenna tilted her head, unease blooming within her. Do you know him? She asked, uncertainty clinging to her voice. I felt the weight of my silence press heavily upon us, my heart caught between my past and the fragile future we needed to carve out. Old acquaintance, I finally said, forcing the words through clenched teeth. Nothing more. Can I help? Jack asked, feigning concern as he shifted his stance. I can help. No, Jenna declared assertively, her voice strong despite the tremor beneath. Her honesty sliced through the lingering shadows that warped the air between us. We don't need anything from you. I came here for Jenna, Jack insisted, clearly unprepared for the resolute aura she projected. The hurt behind his eyes began to twitch at the edges of my resolve. I know a lot about these cases. I might have some connections. I don't want your help, Jack, Jenna cut off sharply, the furrows in her brow deepening as anger mixed with defiance. If you're here to throw money or connections at me, then save them. I don't need your pity. I admired her strength in that moment, how she drew from an inner core, pushing aside her own pain to confront the man who might have added to in that same breath. Oliver waddled up to us, his tiny fingers smudged with dirt, still holding the tiny bird towel handed to him by the old lady. His innocent face shone bright, and for a fleeting moment, I could see sparks of hope glimmering in his eyes. Look, Mommy. We can help it. The nice lady said we have to be gentle. I wished I could capture that moment, freeze it in time, untouched by the looming shadows. But as Oliver's cheerful spirit brightened the air, Jack stepped closer, his voice softening. I've changed, Jenna. I know I made mistakes, but I can help you now. Just let me try. Change doesn't erase the past, Jenna said, her voice trembling, but it wasn't fear, it was grounded in the anger that should have long faded. You don't get to pick and choose how you redeem yourself. My chest felt constricted as I watched tension rise once more. A familiar fear began to gnaw at my insides, a profound concern for Jenna and Oliver coiling tighter as Jack persisted. I wouldn't betray you again. Just let me be a part of this. In that moment, time stilled as all eyes drew reluctantly back toward the delicate bird nestled in Oliver's hands. The old lady's gentle ministrations had calmed it, but the creature's suffering mirrored the helplessness echoing in our hearts. We were all struggling to liberate ourselves from our own vulnerabilities, and yet Jack seemed blissfully unaware of the turmoil he provoked. Maybe we could find a way to work together, he suggested, attempting an olive branch that swung too easily between us like a pendulum. I have resources and there's funding. No, Jenna insisted again, her courage fierce despite the tremors lurking beneath her composure. I'll not be a pawn in your game, Jack. Oliver's little fingers grazed the bird's feathers, cradling its frail form gently, a symbol of purity amidst chaos. I could see Jenna's resolve shining through her fierce love for her son, illuminating the truth. We'll figure this out on our own, she said, guiding Oliver's hand so he could feel the delicate beats of the bird's heart beneath its fragile body. Together. But as Jack stepped back, something unsettled twisted in my gut at the sight of him, knowing too well that half-hearted intentions could lead to disastrous ends. Oliver giggled suddenly as the bird gave a soft chirp, a sprout of hope that seemed to split the air with potential. Yet, that hope felt delicate, like the way the bird's heart fluttered in his small hands prone to shattering amid the chaos of our lives, and just as I braced myself against the flurry of emotions swirling around us, I saw her, an unexpected figure emerging from the tree lean, with a look of determination etched across her face. My breath hitched in my throat that it was someone from Jenna's past. Someone I was sure she never wanted to see again. My heart raced with the ominous knowledge that as layers unfurled, our fight for survival was only beginning. The darkness was climbing, pushing us into corners we had never wished to explore, and every moment it twisted around us. Hope felt as precarious as the bird cradled in Oliver's hands, teetering on the edge of freedom or despair. As I stood beside Jenna and Oliver, my eyes locked onto the figure emerging from the trees, a visceral sense of dread gripped my heart. Her presence was a whirlwind, uninvited and unsettling. Margaret, Jenna's estranged sister. The distance they had created was a fragile web of past grievances, regret, and unspoken sorrow. I could see that their history stretched far beyond what I understood, but the weight of it hung like a storm cloud in the air around us. Jenna? Margaret's voice broke through the tension, raw and strained. I heard about Oliver. I came as soon as I could. The tremor in her tone hinted at a complex concoction of emotions: pain, concern, perhaps a tinge of jealousy. I felt Jenna stiffen beside me, the air between them thick with unsaid words. Why are you here, Margaret? Jenna replied, her voice flat, masking the whirlwind brewing within. I could sense her pain, her cautiousness clashing with the desperation for support. You didn't want anything to do with me. I know, and I'm sorry. I've made mistakes, Margaret said, stepping closer, the sincerity layered beneath her bravado. But this is about Oliver. I want to help. An uncomfortable silence hung between them, and I could feel Oliver shift beside Jenna, sensing the tension. Mommy? He asked, his innocent brow furrowing, unknowing of the gravity of their strained relationship. Is she family? Yes, she is, Oliver. She's my sister. Jenna's reply came with a deflated sigh, as if uttering those words carried the heavy weight of unresolved conflict. Mommy, we can help her too. Oliver urged, his eyes bright with the optimism unique to children. Just like we helped the bird. But both women were caught in an emotional maelstrom, and I felt the battle play out behind Jenna's gaze, her desire for familial connection tightly wound with a fear of reopening old wounds. Yet, there was Oliver, the beacon of innocence guiding us through murky waters, coaxing forth a flicker of hope. Listen, Jenna, Margaret pressed, her eyes pleading, I may not have been around, but I want to be here now. I want to help Oliver. I swear I'll do whatever it takes. At that moment, the cycle broke within Jenna, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Why now, Margaret? After all this time, why now? Margaret opened her mouth to respond, but hesitation filled the air, and I knew this was a moment that could shift their entire narrative. Because I regret not being here before. I can't change the past, but I can fight for him now. I want to repair what I lost with you too. Feeling like an unnecessary spectator, I let the unspoken emotions swell between them. The cracks in their facade took shape, and suddenly hope felt tangible, luminous, as I stepped back slightly, knowing they needed this space. Caught in the wave of the moment, Jenna's walls began to crumble, the emotion radiating from her like ripples in the water. You don't understand how much I've yearned for support, especially now with everything happening. I don't want to keep this from you, but I'm terrified. You don't have to face anything alone. Margaret reached out tentatively, her own vulnerability spilling forth. I can help, in any way you need. I'm here now, and I want to go back. Tears streamed down Jenna's face like a dam finally breaking, and Oliver looked up at her, alarmed. Mommy, don't cry. He exclaimed, wrapping his little arms around her neck. We can save the bird together. My heart ached as I watched Jenna embrace Oliver, his innocence tying the family bonds tighter. How could something so chaotic and broken become stitched together through the love of a child? The flicker of uncertainty that had plagued me felt like it had found a new pathway, a glimmer illuminating the dark corners. With Margaret stepping into the light, I took a deep breath, allowing hope to seep through the cracks in my heart. Family, I spoke suddenly, is built not just from blood, but from intention, from shared burdens. You both have a chance here to create something beautiful. A chance to heal. Margaret nodded, and for the first time, I witnessed resolve begin to replace shame in her eyes. Let me be a part of Oliver's life going forward. I've failed before, so just let me prove to you that I can do better. Jenna took a moment, and her expression softened, each crease on her face signaling surrender. I don't know. It will be difficult, and trust doesn't come easy. It shouldn't, Margaret replied softly. But I've realized I have no right to ask for your forgiveness just because I want something from you. You deserve to protect Oliver, and whatever I can do to support you, I want to. In that poignant moment, the air shifted, and I felt the weight dissipate slightly. Just as joy blooms from pain, the fragile roots of trust began to unfurl between the sisters. Beneath the veil of shadow, hope danced tentatively, tethering this family to a shared future. Suddenly, I heard the sound of flapping wings, snapping my attention back toward the water. The tiny bird, now nestled in Oliver's palms, fluttered bravely. I forced myself to hold my breath as he directed it back into the world, overriding our moment of vulnerability, weaving unpredictability into our lives like strings of fate guiding us all. Come on, little buddy, Oliver cheered, releasing the bird gently, a triumphant smile stretching across his face. The bird took flight, soaring into the expanse above us free and unburdened. Just as we all longed to be as we stood together, I realized that any moment of darkness could usher forth the brightest light. And even amid the challenges life hurled at us, we could still rise together. I believe in this, I said softly, catching Jenna's gaze, in you both. We can face this whatever it is, together. Jenna took a deep breath, holding my hand firmly as she nodded. Together, she echoed, and as tears of vulnerability and strength glimmered in her eyes, I knew right then, in that moment, we were forging bonds stronger than any obstacle a family intertwined through surprise, chaos, and unwavering belief in one another. And as the last of the sun dipped down behind the horizon, I finally spotted a faint glimmer of revelation hidden within our journey. True wealth wasn't about what we could collect or accumulate, it was about bringing forth love, resilience, and the willingness to share our burdens and joy. Together, I whispered, the word resonating deep within me, igniting a sense of belonging not just for the three of us but for all the lives that melded along the way, a perfect definition of family, bound by hearts rather than blood. In that sacred silence, I grasped the weight of understanding firmly, and it pushed through my soul. I felt the final walls of self-doubt shatter, ringing clear through the night air as the last echoes of hope filled the space between us. That we could do it. We were already doing it, for where there was light, no darkness could endure. And with that, as we observed the last vestiges of sunlight bleed into the evening, I whispered softly, we are enough together, a promise ringing true against the backdrop of a changed horizon.